right, I think we are live. I see things starting to come online. As always, I'm going to wait for a couple seconds to see people in chat confirm they can hear me. And then once I get the good word, we will get the show started here. So once everyone can hear me and, please put hype in the chat or something, and then we'll get going. Hey, I see here from Field Marshal. It looks like we are good. All right, everyone, welcome to DevStream number 9 for Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign. We have a really exciting show for you guys today. Excited to have Alex join us again. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hello, everybody.
How you doing?
Great, thank you. Besides those horrific camera issues we are having here, yeah, everything is fine.
You're fine. You're fine. Yeah, Alex has like a alien invasion camera face going on today. It's great. He looks like someone hit him with a beam or something. It's pretty funny. Really excited to have you on the show today, Alex. I know we're diving in. Last week we had a change of pace. Or last week, listen to me. Last show we had a change of pace. We talked about music. Today we're back to gameplay, and we're talking about skills today, I think, right?
Yeah. Skills is a pretty huge topic for us because the knights in our game make it so much interesting, and skills are a significant part of all that.
Awesome. Yeah, it's gonna be. I really enjoyed finally exposing some of the details. We talked about skills a lot in the last number of months. Actually, we talked about it when the game was first announced back at Gamescom last year, and now we're gonna be getting into some of the details. So that's gonna be great. Wow, isn't it crazy to think that Gamescom was a year ago? It still blows my mind. It's so weird not being at Gamescom this year and interacting with fans and talking with everyone. It's a crazy year.
Yeah, I've been there also several years, and it's where's the world going with such events?
Yeah,
just
definitely.
skipping years, and yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I'd be curious if anyone in the stream right now was at Gamescom last year, if they had a chance to go. It just feels strange not having those big events and walking around and looking at all the booths and everything. I know last year we had a really cool setup for Darksiders with Darksiders 3. We had all the costume characters walking around, and SpongeBob was showing off, and we were first showing about Knights of Honor 2, and here we are a year later, and we don't get a chance to talk about that cool stuff with people. So instead, you get a cool dev stream about Knights of Honor 2 today. So we'll do it that way. And I think we may have some. I know we're not showing any gameplay today. We're going to be talking about We're going to show some screenshots. I think like the very first UI screenshots today. We're going to show a little bit of a tease. Obviously, it's all still in development, but it's the first time we're going to really expose what some of the UI stuff looks like. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just a small piece from the UI. We have a lot more integrated already, but we are still polishing a lot of it. So probably in the next dev stream, a lot more can be seen. And soon we will have more footage from videos and so on from the game. So not just
one of these streams, we're gonna have to do a stream where basically just you and me face off each other in multiplayer. I know that actually, I'd rather have you as a partner with me against the audio guys, because they were on last dev stream, and we were talking about the famous session where Robin beat me in multiplayer. I think when we finally can do a stream of that, that'll be a lot of fun. Multiplayer is a blast.
Cool count me in for that. Definitely.
Yeah. You guys play multiplayer in the office all the time, from what I understand.
All the time. We prefer to test in multiplayer because there are a lot of first it's more interesting. For me it's a lot more fun. The game is more dynamic there, and the other advantage is that we see a lot of issues that do not appear in single player, so we are testing the network stuff as well. Right.
Yep. You guys will have to raise your hands in chat if you want to see us do a multiplayer stream sometime in the future. I imagine that'll be a lot of fun for people. So look at that. Someone's already mentioning the war goats. Oh, man. It never goes away. All right. Well, let's jump into our topic for the day. So if everyone hasn't seen, the Dev Diary is up on community.knightsofhonor.com. Please go check it out. Register and be a part of the community there. You can help race Ivory Knight to be the first post on the chat. Though I think he's starting to lose that war quite a bit, so we may have to stop giving him credit for that first mark. But
Yeah.
a lot of cool comments on this last Dev Diary. I can tell people are excited about talking about skills. This is going to be a two-parter. We're talking about skills today, and we're going to be there goes the freaking goat tease. We're going to be talking about skills today, and then we're actually going to be talking about kingdom traditions in 4 weeks. So this is going to be kind of a two-part piece about how skills and everything work into the game. It's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get right into it. So to start off, a big part about building this skill system was kind of identifying what was important to us. And I really encourage everyone to go read the Dev Diary. Alex and the team did a great job of articulating 5 or 6 different elements of the skill system that were, important. I think as a designer, you have to kind of dive into what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish with the feature before you start building it, or maybe, it doesn't really fulfill the needs of the game. So I think they did a great job of articulating what some of those things were. I'm not going to go through all 5 of them now because that would be a little bit much. But there was one of them that I thought would be worth kind of talking about very specifically, which was the idea that progression should be available on a global kingdom resource. And I think this is a good one to talk about because I already noticed in some of the comments on the forums that people were kind of wondering what we meant by this or what the topic was. So there's a lot of questions about it. Maybe, can you talk to us about some of the different ways that knights can learn skills and what we mean by having progression available, I guess, maybe a better way to say it was also as part of a global resource, and give some context to that idea?
Yeah, generally there are 2 separate systems for progression of knights, which means learning skills and improving them. And we tried versions of the game with either one of those, but right now we think the combination is best. So we have the standard for most games, learning by doing. So knights gain experience, and that's not only battles, that can be all kinds of actions, even trading, establishing some diplomacy actions, and so on. And this is the kind of the background progression for the players. They don't need to do anything in particular. Just during the process of playing, their knights will improve. But if they want to quickly improve the skills of a particular knight, they can use the kingdom resources, which currently we call just books because it's nice and simple, but it symbolizes the education and the enlightenment in the kingdom. So you can use those to very quickly progress a knight, improve a knight, gain level, learn new skills, and so on. And doing this through the kingdom feels a nice touch for the grand strategy genre for us, because we want the game to be focused on the kingdoms.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, we saw an image earlier of Knights of Honor 1 up there, the original game. And I think there's some really cool elements about adding a little more diversity into how you approach leveling up the knights, especially because we've expanded the knight system to include not just just the marshals, but the other classes too. So, you have that expected path where it's like, when I do things, I can gain experience and that can improve certain skills. But you also have that added kind of strategic mindset where it's like, I can invest these kingdom resources into educating my knight. You kind of think about like paying for him to go out to school or whatever and learn a new skill. And there's that option there, and it kind of, creates, we're a grand strategy game first and foremost, so it creates some of that strategic thinking where it's like, all right, do I want to use my resources for improving my knights? Do I want to use them for improving my provinces? Do I want to use them to raise armies? I mean, there's this constant decision-making process. And I saw also people commenting about like RTS, Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign does have an RTS component to it, but it's I wouldn't say a small part of the game, but it's secondary to it being a grand strategy game. The fantasy of Knights of Honor 2 is really about you being a king, managing your kingdom. It has province development and religion and knights and skills and diplomacy and spies and all this other kind of stuff. So it's a very wide experience with that when it comes to being able to do different things as opposed to really being stuck in that kind of RTS sequence. So let's talk about the skills here. Now we have another big change is that you can, well, actually wait, before I go into that, because I'm getting ahead of myself. So skills can be leveled up too. How many levels are we thinking about right now? Like, how do you progress skills? What do they turn into?
Right now we have up to 5 skills per character,
Okay.
and they have 3 levels each. And leveling up skills can provide different bonuses.
What
Usually,
kind of bonuses? Is it just stats, or how does that work?
no, we have some, of course, some statistical benefits, but also higher level of skills can provide whole new actions, military tactics. They can provide some situational bonuses, effects that emerge in the game. They are very diverse. It depends on the particular skill.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's I think there's a lot of cool, and I know we're gonna have a new guest, Georgie, on in a little bit. We're gonna talk about some of the skills specifically, but there's a lot of cool things that come from getting a skill aside from just stats. Like you get these fun. Someone actually, I think it was Field Marshal, asked if taking a loan is a skill or an ability for every kingdom, and we're actually gonna be talking about how that could work in another stream because there's loans are tied to a different mechanic that is coming up on part 3
yeah,
of the roll
yeah.
court. But yes, it's these actions, these unique things that you can do right now as we're building the game. They're tied to these kind of progressive elements and how you evolve and grow your knights, which is really awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the related system is the traditions. I'm not going to tell exactly how this works right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, we got to
Uh,
save.
yeah,
That's the entire next dev diary. So if you start talking about it
but
now, you won't have anything to write about
no,
in the
no,
book.
I will not. But there are other systems that can that are connected to learning new skills. So there's a lot to this feature.
Yeah, definitely. So another, I think, in my opinion, and it's one of the most exciting, and it's also the probably I mean, I'll say I think it's the biggest change from Knights of Honor 1 to Knights of Honor 2. And you think about the changes that we're making. Obviously, we're doing a lot of things that evolve the gameplay and whatnot. But to me, the single biggest change from Knights of Honor 1 to Knights of Honor 2 is the fact that now all of the knights have skills. You know, in Knights of Honor 1,
Yeah,
and we've seen the old UI a few times, all the skills were kind of combat oriented, and it was all about the marshals. And that's what it was centered around. But now we have this entire, and for you guys as designers, it's been I don't want to say a nightmare, but it's definitely kept you up at night. You know, now we're
no, no,
adding
it's
these
fun. It's
skills.
fun. It's
We're at
definitely fun,
all the
right?
classes have skills now, right? The cleric, the merchant, the spy, they all have skills that they can get. So maybe you can talk a little bit
Yeah,
about that. I mean, that was a big decision.
yeah, that's definitely. I can agree with you that this is one of the biggest changes from the old game, and this is fundamental because the skills that knights possess are very central for their abilities. Or one spy, for example, can feel absolutely different from another spy. One can be more focused on bribery, for example, and some cunning actions. The other one can be focused on assassination, for example. So it's a very deep component to the game and very fundamental.
Yeah, I think that we're going to talk about some of those specific skills later, but it's also a big challenge because we didn't want to create hard lines for class skills. So we actually, I think early on in the project, I remember me and Vesto were on a visit out to the team. We're talking about how the skills are going to be approached, and there was a conversation about do we want to do kind of like almost like skill trees for each class, like there's a tree for the spy, a tree for the
Yeah.
merchant, and their own things. And we ended up kind of moving away from that. What we have now is, I mean, from what every skill can be acquired by every class. We have this concept of kind of like primary and secondary skills for classes, right?
Yeah,
Like
right,
how
right.
does those work?
First of all, whether a skill is primary or secondary determines, or not primary or secondary at all, determines how often you can have the chance to learn that skill with the particular knight. So we call this affinities, and of course the knights have affinities, highest affinities related to their primary skills. But yeah, right now you can one skill can be worn by each knight, and
Yeah.
probably there will be some exceptions, of course, because we don't want clerics with assassinations. skills and so on.
Ah, maybe you do. Maybe you do. You never know.
Maybe we do.
Yeah.
It's something that we haven't decided yet. But definitely there are a lot of skills each knight can learn, not only the class-related skills, not only the primary skills. And there are very interesting bonuses that you can gain from a skill that's not primary for your class, but it's primary for something else. For example, logistics can work totally different for a marshal and
Yeah.
trader, for example. The bonuses that are provided are completely different.
Yeah, what I like about it though, and you're kind of teasing a little bit about how this worked. I mean, when you're leveling up and you're getting access to new skills, it's not like, again, in Knights of Honor 1, you had all the skills available and you had to pick which one you wanted to level. Now it's like there's a unless you have a certain feature you take advantage of to get a specific skill, it kind of random rolls what skills are available to learn when you level up. And those primary and secondary skills have a big influence on which skills are available each time those options show up. Yeah.
Well, reducing this randomness is a significant part of the gameplay. So if you focus on very skilled knights and traditions, you have particular buildings and classes that can improve the options you get. Yeah, it's not just the random part, of course, but if you do nothing to improve that, well, you need some work to get what you want.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's a fun addition because it kind of gives each, if you decide not to, influence which skills are available, like taking advantage of this other feature that you can kind of have a particular skill option available, it gives each knight or each person in your royal court its own character to them. How they progress, what options they have to learn. It makes it a little more dynamic as opposed to you just kind of like pick the most optimal build every single time and you kind of create this template. You have to kind of
definitely.
I like it. I think it adds flavor.
Yeah, you cannot you can hardly do that, especially in the beginning of the game. There's no way to do it, but later on it's possible.
Yeah. Do you have like a particular, and I know we're going to talk about specific skills with Georgie in a minute, but do you have any particular skills that you really like that you find yourself always wanting, like a primary skill for a particular class or a non-skill for a class that you use in a different way or anything? Like what are some of the ones that you'd like to take advantage of as you've been playing?
Well, it depends who are you playing against, but in general, trade is a pretty good skill for the beginning, or bargain if you trading. Yeah, and bargain is even better, but if you can get it to the king. So bargaining is awesome. And later on, I like what siegecraft. It does not help very much with winning the battles, but it makes the wars kind of short. If you have a nice force, you can very quickly overtake a small kingdom, and this helps you not get a lot of tension. So I like quick wars and siegecraft.
And also, this is an interesting point about, and I know we've talked about this before too, but another big change from Knights of Honor 1 to the sequel here is that marshals are the only knights that can lead armies now. There's an option that a non-marshal could raise an army. It's a smaller army, but it gives some of that kind of weight of, do you want to have like an archer thief that has the archer skill that they can use for the hunting accident thing we've talked about in the past. Which if you have the archery skill on the spy, he has an option to cause a hunting accident, assassination type attempt. But it also means that if you decide to raise an army, a defensive army with that archer to kind of protect your homeland against a rebel or something, you can stack it with archers because you can take advantage of those skills bonuses too. So it creates this very kind of multi-dimensional gameplay on where you decide to invest in the skill learnings and how those things play together, which I think is really exciting. And archery is what, a secondary skill for a spy? Or is it even in that list?
Yes.
Is it just a skill?
Yes. It's a secondary skill, I think, for the spy. I'm not 100% sure right now, but I think so. What I think we mentioned earlier, but it's good to repeat it if we haven't, is that having a skill that is primary for martial allows other characters to lead the army. So it's very important for each character you want to use for defense, for example, and especially for the king, to have at least one martial skill. So it's another part of the skill system, which is interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And this is also, I think, with all of these different skills and all these different functionalities, I imagine balance is quite the adventure, right?
Yeah, we are. Whenever we change something in the game, we have to change the skills as well. So it's a permanent struggle, but I think we're close to nice balance for the skills. And of course, this is a continuous process. It will go on in the development, in the beta, and after the game is released, probably. So yeah.
Yeah, and a Midday Disco asked if we're live right now. Alex, we're live. Like this is you and me raw. We're right here talking to you guys. So, put a shoe on your head if it's live. I don't have a shoe. I got a baseball. How about that? How's a baseball work? Oh, Alex, do you have a shoe? I don't know if you have a shoe.
I have a slipper.
There you go. There you go, Disco. You got your proof. That's live confirmed. Slipper on head.
This will give me a bad name because in Bulgarian, this is slipper on the head means that your wife controls you.
What, really?
yeah. If you're under a slipper, means that your wife controls you. But it's pretty much true, so I have nothing to lose here.
I find so right before we started the stream, Alex and I were talking because I have my now we're off the games topic for a second, but I have to say this now. You can't say that and not I can't go into the last thing we were talking about before it started. I was talking about my beard because everyone's noticed. If you guys saw back in the early days, this is very new for me. I usually don't have a full beard. I usually just have some scruff, but quarantine 2020, I've been growing the beard out because like every other dude, I think. Alex, you made a comment of maybe the slipper is a little bit apt. I don't know. You were making a comment about your beard. Do you want to share?
Yeah. Okay, I will share it. I prefer being without beard, but my wife likes it a lot, so I have no choice.
So maybe being underneath the slipper is just it's a. I don't know if your wife will watch this, but it's a.
Okay. We have to cut to Google because things are getting worse here. Right.
Oh man, that's funny. All right, we'll get back to the game, but that's hilarious. I could not have. I had no idea the slipper thing was a. I wonder if Disco just knew. He or she was setting us up for that. That was perfect. Oh, yeah. Hilarious. So before we go, and we're gonna, we were talking about the last thing before we got distracted, the balancing of everything. Another part that we want to add in. I know we mentioned this a lot, but I think it's, we want to set expectations properly. We are very, very much dynamically working right now. We're in full production. Things are changing, so we're showing you things and talking about things. I mean, Alex was just talking about how non-martial knights get access to raising armies. I think that's changed like 4 times in the last year. We've tried different things because balance and these new systems are so complicated. So right now we're telling you where things are at today, but I mean, things are changing. All of this stuff is very much in progress. We're trying new things. So if you don't get married to anything, you may end up having to choose. But I mean, you still have to.
It's very fun development time because we have already most of the tools ready, and now we can very quickly change drastically the gameplay and manage the system. So it's great times for game development for us right now. Yeah.
Even right now, I know you guys just had a big milestone that was delivered, and in the last milestone, not this one, but the one before that, it was like the first attempt at the full skill implementation. So now we had like the first pass of real skills all the way across the game. But at the same time, I think from what I understand, there's a big update to trade going on, and we're about to make a major change to religion as a feature.
Yeah.
So it's as those things you change, right? Like they all float back up to the royal court, which means all the skills have to be relooked at. So there's a lot of fun happening right now in Galaxy Games development land.
Huge differences. The trade system is very changed, and you're right for the religion. That change is coming as well. But it's for another DevStream. Yep.
Well, Alex, we're gonna say sayonara to you for right now. We're gonna bring you back on for the Q&A section. But I know everyone's eager to see some of the screenshots that we're gonna show, and I mean they're in the DevDiary too. But we're gonna show them here with Georgie coming up, and we're gonna go into some specific skills. So thank you very much. and
Thank you
we'll
too.
see you in a little bit. So now we're
Yeah.
going to bring on Georgie, and he's going to be chatting with us about actual individual skills, and I think we're going to have a good time with him. So I'll wait for a second, and Georgie, once you're unmuted and live, we will introduce you to the world. So this is going to be a fun new discussion about the skills and all of their details here. Oh, Georgie, I think you need to unmute your. There
Hello,
you go.
hello.
There you go.
Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
there we go.
All right. Hello, everyone.
Hey, Georgie, how you doing?
Good, good. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone, say hi to Georgie. This is his first time with it. So, Georgie, you are a game designer on the team, right? That's your role.
Yep.
Awesome. And has it been? What has it been like working on Knights of Honor 2 so far? Have you been having fun? Tell us a little bit about yourself on that.
Oh, it's been really interesting because I've been in the team for a little bit more than 2 years, I think, actually. Before
wow.
that, I worked on a different project, but this is kind of my first bigger game like this, and it's really exciting because I've been a fan of this type of game since I was a little kid, basically starting out with RTS games like StarCraft and Age of Empires, a little bit of Warcraft, and then moving on to other stuff, and then going back to those. So working on a game like this is pretty much a dream come true.
Absolutely. I'm guessing you played a decent amount of Knights of Honor 1. Do you have a favorite nation you usually play?
Yeah, definitely. I would say I think I enjoy the Central European ones more just because it's so chaotic in there. Something like Bohemia or others that are maybe like one or two provinces just because it's the most exciting part of the game. Just starting out really small and surviving all the chaos.
Yeah, no, sometimes playing the large, I know, I think my very first Knights of Honor game I ever played, I tried to play at one of the larger empires and got absolutely crushed because I had no idea what I was doing.
Okay.
That's also a different type of game experience when you jump in too, in a way.
Did you get attacked by mercenaries by any chance?
No, I think I just got attacked by everybody. Like the Knights of Honor, it's like if you're big, everyone's like, all right, well, let's bring this guy down a notch. And I got steamrolled. I'm like, okay, let me pick a nation that only has one or two provinces so I can figure out how this game works. Because holy crap, that was bad. So cool. And I always like to ask a couple random questions, personal questions when someone first joins the show. So the common one right now has been, obviously because of the silly goat thing, but do you have any pets? Are you a pets guy?
I don't have right now, but I used to have an iguana. Which was like a meter and a half. It didn't fit in the terrarium after a while, so we just kind of let it live on top of it, and then it just crawled all over the place. So that was fun.
What was the iguana's name?
E.T. Extraterrestrial.
E.T.
Yeah, because it looks like an alien.
Like the movie.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny. Cool. Well, I see a guitar in the background. Are you a musician as well?
I just kind of dabble a bit from time to time. Have a bunch of guitars, play some mostly harder stuff, but not a professional musician, just a hobby one.
Bulgarian metal band.
Yeah. No, not yet. Maybe someday.
Well, it's great to have you on, Georgie, and looking forward to going through some skills with you. So let's get into the meat of the conversation. So we just had Alex kind of talking about kind of the setups for these different skills, and we were talking about primary and secondary skills and kind of what those are. But I know the audience is really they love specifics. It's really easy to talk about some of the different specific skills. So in the Dev Diary, we talked about the bargaining skill for the merchant, and I think we actually showed some of the UI for that, and I think we can maybe pull it up here in a second so everyone can take a look at that. There was some cool aspects of the bargaining skill that were shown as far as like kind of a tease it. But are there other skills maybe on the merchant class that you can talk about that could be fun, like skills that may get some excitement from the players that are maybe a little bit different?
Yeah, definitely. There are lots of interesting skills for the merchant. I think one that I enjoy a lot is the logistics one. Simply because it kind of mixes.
Alex mentioned that in the earlier part of the stream. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, it mixes a lot of interesting elements that might be useful for a merchant, but also for, let's say, marshal. Because if you're a marshal, you get stuff like reduced consumption for the food of an army while it travels. Whereas if you're a merchant, you can really focus on getting that food production for the kingdom. Which is really interesting when you think about what we mentioned in one of our previous dev streams about the army upkeep, because right now armies cost food to be alive, basically. So you might have a strategy where you employ a merchant who boosts the food production, and that kind of helps you out on a global term.
Yeah, I
And I
can
think,
imagine like having
hmm,
it's balancing all those different resources so that you can and you do approach them from the province level, but those skills can make a big difference in how that works.
oh yeah, definitely, it's picking the exact skill in the right moment is very crucial. Sometimes some of them are really useful in the early game, and other times you might skip them because you think, oh yeah, this would make a 0.1% difference now, but if I wait a little bit, it might be useful afterwards.
Right, definitely. And so another thing that's I know we've talked about as well is the knights are obviously a big part of how the skill play works, but you have your king who also kind of serves as this permanent
Yeah.
knight with their own skills and their own aspects, and there's unique values that are only available if your king has those skills too.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's I mean, to be honest, not literally every skill has a king effect, but those
Right.
that do make sense have ones that are really beneficial when you have because it's kind of an investment. Only one person in the court can have that skill, so it has to be really epic for it to make sense to pick that over the rest. I think when I play, whenever I get a kingdom effect on a skill, I just pick that for the king because I know it's going to be pretty nice. So I think I could give you an example of an interesting one with maybe my favorite one, which is if you have a king who has warning, you get all your princes become basically super masterful at getting new skills. So every new skill you get from them
Ah.
gets a high rank. So you immediately start turning out really experienced princes.
Okay, so that's just kind of a cool metagame strategy where it's like if you can get a king with learning, then you can kind of make your sons boosted, and so when they
Yeah,
become like let's say daisy chain together, you have another son that has learning, and it just keeps on going. And that's I was
definitely.
actually going to make that comment is there's almost kind of this like plan. 'Cause I mean in the royal court, people do live and die, and there's things that can be risky for them, like going to war, getting captured or whatnot, and
Yeah.
so it's almost like having the prince, the heir that is going to be taking over the throne, kind of thinking ahead and going, okay, I want to give them skills now that when they become king, I can take advantage of. And so you kind of have that metagame. That's really interesting. I actually don't know if I knew about that one. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely. And you wouldn't want to put that king on the battlefield, or at least you would be very careful because if he dies, you're kind of square on level one. But that's valid for all the skills, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's another one of those balancing acts, even with like the marshals and whatnot. I mean, you have to go to war eventually. I mean, that's part of the tone of the game, and
Yeah.
there's always that risk that when you go out there, something bad can happen. But at the same time, those that king marshal, or even he's I think the king marshal, he has like 12 units in his army or something crazy like that. So it's a much more powerful. So it's like yes, there's risk. There's also the weight of that. It's a tricky balancing act.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting when we play in multiplayer and you notice a squad and you're like, oh, this is the king. Maybe I should message someone to attack him, because it's a really big target when you see him on the map and you see how many squads there are, and you're just,
Yeah.
I gotta go.
But then, I mean, to that point, there are martial skills that have king
Yeah.
advantages to them as well. So you may run into a king that's leading a big army that has a couple skills that make it really hard to beat that army.
Yes, definitely. For example, we have a skill called Iron Fist,
Okay.
which is a martial specific skill, but it also gives you an interesting bonus for the king because it kind of reduces some hidden expenses there are in the kingdom. I'm not going to mention what they are exactly because we haven't introduced the system right now, but it works for how many merchants you have in the court. And it multiplies them by the amount of merchants you have in the court, so you can create an interesting deck basically with 3 or 4 merchants in a king, and you can really,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So it's like you end up building a merchant court to have a way stronger martial king, and so you
Hmm.
have like these guys. Geez, it's like almost like a boosting mechanic. Like, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's if you think about it. Now I actually didn't know about this one either. It's crazy. Even as much as I play the game, there's so much to discover all the time with the skill system.
Oh yeah,
The skill system is so deep, and we're still adding depth to it. There's all these new things. So I have my notes for the stream that I'm going off of. I had no idea that this was even a thing. And I'm already thinking about. I have to play the build I think tomorrow because there's some new stuff in there I'm supposed to check out. So maybe I'll try this. But that's crazy because if you think about it,
Definitely.
you see a king with that skill maybe on the battlefield, but you have no idea that kingdom's royal court set up? Does he have one merchant? Does he have six? Like if he has
Yeah,
six
definitely.
merchants sitting there and you go attack that king's gonna face roll you. Like that's dangerous.
Yeah, just to clarify, the effect I'm talking about is not, it doesn't give you the military strength for the king specifically, it just gives you a more economic or kingdom effect. But because it's called Iron
Ah,
Fist, it kind of, puts the kingdom into a more secure position, basically, because you rule with an Iron Fist. That's the metaphor.
man, you know what though? I mean, sometimes ideas come up
Yeah.
from
But
everywhere.
what you're
It
saying
actually
is
get.
also
I mean,
interesting.
it's
Yeah.
a really cool idea. Like, imagine if you had this
Oh, yeah.
ability. You guys heard, by the way, you guys heard it here first. You want to talk about like world first? If that option somehow makes it into the game, you were there when the idea came up. Like this, we just generated a new game idea right now. It may not make
Definitely.
it. It could be completely broken, but it's a really cool idea. Like, imagine a skill that boosts your king's potency based on how many of a class you have on your royal court. Because
Yeah.
then there's always this, like, when you're sitting there and attacking that king, you're like, I mean, I see he sees that skill, but
Mm-hmm,
oh
mm-hmm.
man, I don't know what his royal court layout is. Maybe I should get a spy to figure out what the royal court layout is first before I try to fight him. Like, there's all these metagame pieces that are coming into play. That's
Yeah.
kind of neat. Like, that has some neat potential to it.
Actually, that's what Alex said earlier is also very interesting now to say, because what you mentioned with the skill, as Alex said, because we have such an easy time modifying stuff now, and we have all the systems, like a lot of the systems in place, we can just go in tomorrow and try out the skill and see if it works fine.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a really complex system going on.
Yeah, so another point to make about the skill system, and we've talked about this in other streams as well, is we've definitely built all of Knights of Honor 2 Sovereign with modders in mind. I mean, every
Yeah.
aspect of the game is built moddable. So if Georgie and Alex don't like my idea, someone in this chat, when the game goes live, has to make the skill. You can call it the Brad skill or something. I don't know. I want credit for it though. If it doesn't make it into the shipped game, someone should make a mod with this crazy like boosty skill with number of people in the roll court, and then I'll play it. Like, and we can do a stream where we'll play the mod, and it'll be great. So I'll have to make a note. Someone, maybe one of the guys in the community can go and start the skill thread, and we'll keep track of this thing, and it can have its own life. But yeah,
Nice.
it's like you said, it's really, I actually find it very. It was a big investment for us as a development team to build a system that's so data driven and so robust. But now that it's in there, like, you guys have a lot of flexibility to mess with these
Mm-hmm.
ideas, test them, remove them, try different things. The community's gonna be able to do that when the game launches and be able to mod those. It's just really, really cool. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's
Nice.
someone just asked, is it actually ENXP? I don't know how to pronounce your name, bud. It was an acronym maybe. Uh, I'm bad at pronouncing Twitch names, but he asked if it was easy to mod. And I mean, we have done a lot of effort to make the game both easy to develop and easy to mod. So you're gonna have a lot of power and functionality there
Yep.
that allows you to mod stuff. I think you'll enjoy that quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So one more aspect I want to talk about before we go into our Q&A session with Alex is the idea of governors. So we have this concept in the game for all that aren't familiar with it. People in your royal court can actually be governors of a province. So you have, every person can be assigned to a province, and there's different benefits to that happen regardless of your
Yep.
skills. But from what I understand, skills also can magnify or change that province government as well, correct?
Yes, definitely. Many skills have governor-specific effects, just like we have kin-specific effects and prison-specific effects and whatnot. So we can just put tags whenever.
Prison specific effect. We've talked about that in the previous stream with my whole spy debacle and me messing up the spies 3 different ways while I was trying to break them out. And a prison specific effect is what saved me and also cursed me from that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've run into that myself.
No problem, no problem. But yeah, the governor-specific effects are. I think whenever I personally get a skill when I play, it's one of the things I really look forward to because I guess I can give an example again with the skill we have, which is really governor specific, and that's stewardship, which basically screams, I am the governor, give me stewardship. And it shows up with a lot of interesting different flavors. It really showcases the system because if you have a merchant governor, wait, let's back that out. If you have just a non-merchant governor, just any governor, you gain some gold in the province, just like that, because you're a governor. But if you get a merchant, you get per village. If you get a cleric, you get per monastery. And it really changes the flavor of the skill in a really elegant way, I think. And this is one of the examples where with stewardship, we kind of thought about like, how are you going to balance it? Is it going to be boring if it's only about governing? But it actually isn't. This is what people expect. So it's a lot of governor specific stuff, which can actually show up in our skills as well. It just gives a, depending on the skill, you may gain different resources in the governed places or entire unique actions.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of cool aspects when it comes to how those skills synergize with with different features, and governing is one of them where it's like,
Yeah.
if you have a province that is set up as a big religious province and it has a lot of monasteries and you're building up that province to have monastery boosting things like cathedrals or whatever, features that you're
Hmm.
building there, it's part of that meta strategy where like, okay, I'm going to go get a particular cleric with stewardship, drop them on that particular province, and just kind of, again, that metagame piece. And since a lot of those things are not completely randomized, but since the province development is a little bit randomized when it comes to how the settlements are laid out, it kind of makes the lay of the land amplify so much of things in the game because you are making those decisions and they tie into the royal court, and the royal court ties back down to the province development, and you're kind of playing those things back and forth. One that I always like, I know Vesso, the game director, has talked about this a few times with having that bread basket. You were talking about having, that militaries can have be influenced by how much food generation you have and your ability to support them. And there
Yeah.
are skills that governors can have that boost food production if they have that skill. It does other things, but it can,
Yes.
boost food production of someone governing. So you can go build up that kind of bread basket province, all the food generation and boosting, drop that governor in there, and that's kind of that theme. And it's a lot of fun to, like, whenever I play Knights of Honor 2 right now, it's like you said, it's one of the first things that you kind of do is look at your province layout and kind of start thinking about what you want to do with particular provinces, and that actually does drive who do I want to, what kind of classes do I want in the royal court, and what kind of, like, you may make some hard decisions where, like, do I want a skill that benefits me right now, or I want a skill that's going to benefit me in like 30 minutes because I'm doing certain things. Like you're always playing that strategy, and I love that.
Yeah.
That's why I play these games. I want to play that strategy part.
Oh yeah, there's so many different parts of the game that they're intentionally designed with this thought of mind. Actually, what you mentioned for the food right now, it goes back for the logistics, which I mentioned earlier, because it has a somewhat similar effect when you're a governor. But instead of food, it gives you goats. But that's depending on how many goods, how many resources you produce in the province. So it's also another synergy to look for.
I think it's something that you guys have done that, I'm not there's the goat. It's not that I'm trying to, like, toot your own horns or anything, so I'm not trying to embarrass you, but it's something that to me it makes, when I play Knights of Honor 2 right now, and lucky to me, I get to play it all the time.
Everyone's jealous in the chat.
Yeah, yeah, the chat's unhappy with me right now because I'm bragging about the fact that I can play the game and they can't. But the fact that the skills are not just stats and there's all this other stuff that wraps into it, it adds so much personality to the game. It's not like you have, like, with the jailbreak thing that comes up with the spies, or unique actions that are there based on having a certain skill. It really does give a lot more personality to how you grow each of your people in your royal court, which royal court classes you're seeking out, how you want to use them. There's a lot more dynamic content there. And I found that in other strategy games, and I mean, I'm not talking bad about other strategy games, I play a lot of them, sometimes it does get to be more of a numbers game, and there's always a little bit of that. I mean, face it, we're strategy gamers, we're going to always think about numbers in the background. You can't segregate yourself from that. But having those, like, unique actions and aspects and how you kind of metagame it, I mean, I don't know, it adds so much personality. I really enjoy it.
It creates cool stories, and that's the most exciting part, definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, the stories are what, I mean, that's it's funny sometimes when I play these games, I almost feel like I'm writing, like, playing the game is like writing a novel about this empire. And I remember I remember playing, like, some of the old Civ games, and I would actually have, like, I'd be playing Civ and have, like, a thing open and be taking notes about, like, the perspective of a guy in my empire as this crap is going on. Like, he's in this one city that's been conquered and reconquered, like, 30 times over the course of the last 200 years, man. His family has gone through some shit, gone through some stuff, right? Like, it's been a thing. I love that. Like, it's part of, and I feel like with Knights of Honor 2, that comes out so much of these different stories. Like my story with the spy, where he, like, he gets caught, and then I stupidly send him right back in, and the guards are like, dude, you were just here. Like, when do you think you're coming back? I'm gonna throw you right back into jail. You can't escape and then come back. We know what you look like. I love that. Like, it makes fun.
Absolutely, and stuff like that keeps popping out even from the original game. So many stories people keep posting about playthroughs. It's really nice.
Yeah. Well, we're going to bring Alex back on to do some questions, but before we do, is there any kind of like last things that you want to share with the group, or something else you want to teach them when it comes to like the skill system or anything?
I would maybe leave it for the next diary, because I think what we have in store with the traditions is going to really expand on this system, because it's already pretty in depth when you think about it. But when you add the traditions, these skills take on another different level. So I think it's going to be really interesting if we when we see the next dev diary, and we can get a little bit more into specifics of how the traditions work. Yeah, the skills, when we added the skills, it was basically one of those moments when the game just upped the level in terms of everything. So yeah.
Yep. And everyone has a preview that dev diary DevStream right now is slated for September 1st for the dev diary, and September, I'm checking my calendar, September 3rd for the stream. So we are going to be talking about traditions. It's going to be Royal Court Part 3, and talking about the traditions which tie into the skills. So mark your calendars now. Obviously, it could change. You know, nothing is set in stone, but that's the current tentative timeline. And Georgie may be back for that, so you may get some cool elements there for talking about traditions. So Georgie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast. Very excited.
Yeah, very fun. I'm sure everyone enjoyed meeting you, and we'll see you around. So thanks a lot. And now we're going to bring Alex back on, and we're going to go back into our famous Q&A session and talk about some of the comments and questions that came up. So as everyone knows, and I'll mention it again, you can find the Dev Diaries at community.knightsofhonor.com. It's where our community's kind of centralized. Our Dev Diaries are posted there. We post them 2 days before these streams. So you can go and read all this cool content, see the images and screenshots, and kind of get in the know before the stream starts. And then we always kind of reserve the last 10 to 15 minutes to try to answer questions from everybody and discussing, what their comments are. There's this fun race that's been going on between a couple people in the chat. I love that it's evolved into this. It makes me amused. I actually may go back sometime and maybe we'll start a store card of who has been the first question on the Dev Diaries. We're at number 9 now, so you probably make a fun little chart going on. But I think right now Ivory Knight and Yavor have been dueling back and forth trying to be the first comment on the Dev Diaries. But we encourage you to go comment there. We always read them, and I always check them the night before the streams and grab some of the questions so we can go over them. So we're going to cover some questions from the stream and some questions from the forums, and we'll have a good time. So Alex, welcome back.
Yeah, hi again.
Awesome. So we're going to start with a question from Ivory Knight, and I actually think a couple people talked about this one. So Ivory Knight, shout out to you. Hello. And the question is, what is the general age of death for court members? It can be annoying for an experienced court member to quickly die after recently maxing out his leveling. What was the goal with regards to this gameplay experience? Do you want it so that after maxing a character by natural experience, they die off due to age, or can you max a character in a quicker time frame, et cetera, et cetera? So he's kind of talking about the idea of, the risk of royal court members dying and kings dying, and kind of how that ties into the experience thing. So what do you think? What's your comments there?
First of all, one thing that is very important is that we have settings about that, how quickly knights age. So we have basically slow, medium, and fast setting. And if you like to keep your knights longer, and I mean just the natural death, because there's a lot that can happen to them. But you can even turn off the aging for normal knights. That means that only the royalties age. So we are very versatile. There is a funny story actually on the last big playtest, the one that everyone from the company plays before the previous milestone, and everybody was complaining exactly for this thing, saying that they are just leveling their knights, and they even cannot reach the maximum level before they die. but it turned out that we've been playing by default on the very fast aging. So it's it's a really issue, but yeah, you can fine tune this by yourself. It's one of the gameplay options for the game.
Yeah, that's a good comment, and I think to be, it allows you a lot of control over the game experience you want to have, both in multiplayer and single player. So definitely can be customized. If you want to have that rapid fire gameplay, you can. And good luck, Ivory Knight. If you want to have one that's a little more paced, you can. If you want your roll court to live forever, you can. So there's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah,
I'm going to move forward because we don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to keep going out because we have like 7 minutes. So Field Marshal asks, can knights and court members still earn their skill points through success of their actions? So paying for them would not be required all the time. And the answer is absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
We talked about that earlier. Both things are available. So.
Right.
And then the last forum comment I'm going to go through, Mensi, I think, EMNSSIE, said, will city improvements like libraries, universities, or military academies give experience or skill points to knights or court members that are hired in cities with those improvements? And or will some of the city improvements be available to governors with specific skills to unlock it?
Not exactly, but there are some ways to boost your knight's experience gain rate, and also what the buildings usually provide is books. And when you have books, your knights learn quicker because you can simply level them up using that resource. So practically, yes, you can.
Yes, but at the same time, we don't have anything in the plans right now for city improvements that are gated specifically by a governor's skill. So
we have regarding that part, we have discussed it. For example, whether you can build a cathedral without governor cleric, but we decided that we don't want to restrict so much the building order of the players, and it's vice versa. It's beneficial to have cleric as a governor, but you can build a cathedral without him. So
yeah, it's more of a magnifier than it is a restriction. And that was, I remember those discussions. We ended up, to answer, I guess, the question completely, we ended up deciding that that wasn't the best way to do it because it added, Knights of Honor 2 is designed to be an approachable grand strategy game. There's a lot of depth to it. We also want to make it something that everyone can play and get into. And when we talked about systems like that, it started becoming very difficult because then you have to learn, okay, which skills unlock which buildings and can I blah, blah. It just makes it, versus build what you want and then you can have skills that magnify it.
And it's even more interesting because if you have a hard restriction, you have no choice. You have to do it like this. And if you have a soft restriction or a magnifier, then you have a choice. I can build it without cleric governor, but is it worth it? So, yeah.
Yep. Let me ask. This is gonna be rapid fire because there's one question I want to get to before the end, and we have about 5 minutes left. So, a couple questions from the stream. So I have, what will happen to your army if the leader, if it dies? Will the army keep its experience? Will it become a mercenary camp like it did in KOH 1? Any comments on that?
Yes. Both to both questions, yes. Your army becomes mercenary camp. This camp is loyal to your kingdom, so you can hire them for free if you go with another marshal. And yes, the units have their separate experience, which is a different experience system from the marshal's experience. So they keep their experience of the squads.
So we actually talked about that quite a bit, and there's some cool functionality I think you'll like when it comes to how that's managed this time around.
Yeah.
And that was a question from Massim90. We have a question from ArcSpade11 that says, will you be able to play with Serbia kingdoms?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes,
all right.
You can.
Dovala Legend actually asked, I think, a question we already answered, which is, will everyone in roll court age, or will they only one age like the king, like the original Knights of Honor?
It's a setting.
Answer was that yes. Yeah.
It's a setting.
And then will queens and princesses have royal skills too, or will they basically be useless? We're still kind of working on the queens and like royal family gameplay. It's a little bit tricky for us to navigate because we have some historical things we have to, hold true to. And we're also trying to be careful about not, we talked about this in one of the streams before, we're trying not to make the game like an RPG. So we have depth to the royal family, but we also don't want to make it, I mean, we're a grand strategy game, we're not a role-playing game. So there are some dynamics to the royal family that we actually early on had some really cool functions, and then we ended kind of cutting those. So we'll see as that kind of revolves through.
Yeah, we cannot give a final answer to this right now.
Yeah. And then the last question I'm going to ask from the community, and then I have one comment, and then we'll is Field Marshal asked, in which way is skill system moddable? Text-like files, is it easy to mod? And the answer is yeah, we have a lot of cool stuff we're doing in the mod system. There's going to be kind of XML style files that you can go through and edit and modify. You'll also be able to add new models and textures and assets into the game if you want to do that. So there's a lot of cool stuff when it comes to mod tools, and I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised at how easy they are to use and mess with. So really cool there.
Yeah, practically you can remove every effect.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then one last comment I want to throw in there. So there was a really cool conversation on Discord about military units and strength, and I think my lovely producer Alex is going to throw a link up there. Everyone was basically talking about how the different units were ranked from Knights of Honor 1 when it comes to like which builds people liked and which ones they didn't like. And someone also made this really awesome thing on Time Maker that allows you to actually drag the units up and rank them in different tiers, which I thought was super cool and a neat discussion to have. So we posted that on the Twitch chat. I welcome fans to go know Knights of Honor 1 well, to go and maybe create your own ranking and throw them into a community thread, community.knightsofhonor.com. Go and participate. It'd be awesome to gather some of these opinions on people about how they felt the military units actually ranked. We're actually working a lot on the battle system right now and tuning some of the military units, and it'd be awesome to have that feedback. So a big tip of the hat to Field Marshal for creating that tier maker thing and driving that conversation. It's awesome to see. Feel free to join the Discord channel. There's a lot of lively discussion that goes on there, especially from old Knights of Honor 1 fans, and we really appreciate that feedback. It's super critical for us. So if someone wants to start the thread, or we can start the thread, it'd be great to get a thread going and see some of the different layouts of how people rank those things. It was really cool to see. So I think that's the show. Alex, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
I think we covered that, and we can add up when we're discussing the traditional system. So yeah.
I had to rush. I had to rush the questions at the end. We had so much good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah. Well, we can always continue with the questions on the next stream. They are related topics, so yeah.
Yep. And please join the community. You can always ask us in the forums. We respond there. We're on Discord. We're everywhere. So we'd love to have you be a part of it. We have a Facebook group that you can join and follow to get more information. Next stream is going to be in 4 weeks. That's the plan. We're going to be talking about traditions, and we'll have, for people that missed it, I hear some people talking about wondering missed it. This thing will also be up on our YouTube channel within the next couple days, so you'll be able to watch a recording and see all the good stuff there. We really appreciate you joining us today. Had a lot of fun chatting and look forward to seeing you in a little bit. Thank you very much, everybody.
See you guys.